Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Horst Lüning. I'm the master, taster, strategist, whatever I am. I'm not quite sure. Today we're not tasting whiskey. Today we're talking Brexit.
So yeah, how did we come up with this theme? We just tasted the Glenkinchie and we just saw something that reminded us that Brexit is still there and makes Brexit much more highly likely.
Because the big company behind Glenkinchie, Diageo, the biggest spirits company in the world and the proprietor of most of the Scottish Highland distilleries, with 35 and up distilleries in Scotland, they changed the label, the back label of Glenkinchie. And in former times, there had been only Glenkinchie as the distillery on the back, as the responsible company for the whiskey. But now it's a DBBV company, imported by DBBV, Molenwerf 12,014 BG, Netherlands. So we now see a Dutch company on the backside of the label. Why is that?
This is also a classic malt, a bit older. It's a 2003, 2018 bottle, so 2 years ago roughly, or 1.5. And it says Dalwhinnie Distillery, Dalwhinnie, Inverness-shire, pH 191AA, Scotland.
This is below that.
So it's this is the old, this is the new one.
Yeah, and this is the distiller's edition as well. So it's looked a bit different, but the back label had been the same.
So, but they all both belong to Diageo. So now they have an address inside Europe, and the theory behind that is that like for tax, or is that for?
No, it's a how it's called, a
law.
No, it's not a law.
It's a regulation.
It's a regulation. And it's a major regulation from the EU, which has to be converted into law. So a regulation made by the government is put over to the local parliaments to be passed. They have to pass it.
The EU is a bit different to the US. You have federal law. The EU doesn't really have that many laws, but they pass these regulations, major regulations, and they have to be put in by the states. They are they have a bit of freedom how they do it, but they have to put in these regulations.
There are some points where they can open it up.
So what they have to do is they have to put an importer address from someone responsible inside the EU for this product, on the product.
Yeah, this is part of the major food regulation in Europe, where you have to have a responsible company inside the European community so that you have a legal access to that company. And typically this legal entity is some sort of paperwork and not really there. Very few, if at all, staff. So it's just a legal entity where the where you can place your how it's called, your official mails to. That's
your
all.
Complaints.
Complaints is even too few. So also
everything.
Well, the law are issuing papers to a company, then you need that address.
So, but the idea behind that is now that the big company of Diageo thinks that the Brexit is coming.
Yes,
that's the underlying idea behind that. Diageo is putting an European address on their bottle because otherwise it would not be possible to have that product inside Europe when Brexit happened, when the UK is outside. You can't take a UK product with a UK address into EU. You have to have an EU address on that. So Diageo thinks that Brexit will happen.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the thing. So
all the media, except the very few, are saying Brexit won't happen. 99% against Brexit. Nobody wants Brexit.
Trump will never be president.
Yes, that's it. And so this is the thing media is publishing, and the reality. So this is part of, well, it's a weird word. It's part of fake news.
Yeah, it's an overused term.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is now, it's probably gonna happen. If Diageo thinks it's gonna happen, there's more probable cause that it will really happen.
It's a multi-billion company.
So where we stand at Brexit right now, we have a new election coming up on the 12th. And that means the Tories are pro-Brexit, Labour is kind of another referendum, and the others are just going downhill. So can Boris Johnson reach the majority?
So I've been on a betting portal. I looked at the bets, and the
Nice
bets.
to know where you're going.
I didn't play. I didn't put my money in on a head. But you have those polls, and polls tend to be very
Biased.
one side is biased, but statistically wrong, because you take 1,000 or 1,500 individuals, and then you have a few here, a few there, and you do not reach the people you call them, and you do not have the mobile phone, so you leave out all the young ones. And so polls are very, very difficult, and small parties typically have an offset of 3 to 6%. So it's definitely. But if you look at the bets, then people put money on it.
So there's a bit more pressure behind
There's
that.
a bit more pressure to be honest, to have made your thoughts up. And there I've seen Boris Johnson between 35 and 39, 99% vote. This was the lowest gain you got out of the bets. So the less you get, the more likely it happens. So Labour was down to 24 something, 23, 24.
So this is a bit off from the polls that you have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but there were still some Brexit party, some UK Independent Party, and some Liberals, and there were many in, and the odds were just for the Tories.
Yeah, the thing is, I looked at the polls, and the polls say, okay, he's at 42, 43. And I think he needs something like 46, something around. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how that system works, but he is very close to the majority. The Labour Party is on hot pursuit, so they are gaining a lot, but they're a lot weaker because they are split between the Labour and the Liberal Democrats. So it's a close race. But what I find really interesting is, while Germany is getting more into a system that looks like Italy, where we have split the left into 3 parties, now the right into 3 parties, and we still have like the libertarians, the like liberals, like really freedom guys. So we have 6 parties in Germany. So everything is pretty much split up, whereas the UK is focusing now. All the 2 major parties are going up, and all the other parties are going down.
Yeah, this is part of
so more like the American system.
Yeah, this is part of the voting scheme, because you have those counties or whatever they split those election regions, and then you have the winner takes it all. And on the continent, at ours, we have a partly direct vote and a partly percentage vote. And this always brings some smaller parties into the parliament. And this, well, is not black or white or red or blue, but this is a rainbow of colors possible. And the worst thing is you always have the same persons on top, because they get their votes from the relative system and not from the direct vote. And if Boris Johnson doesn't make his voting region, he's out.
Yeah.
So,
but I think they always put the high
leaders
guys
in those regions
in the regions that are very. I think you can go into a region that you're not really born there or live there or anything.
Yeah.
So all
this is also done in Germany.
What's the guy? The Lord Buckethead. But Lord Buckethead is now a new guy. There's a guy who looks like kind of Lord Vader, and he has a tall bucket, and it's very black, and he's always standing there, and he's always going for the he wants to get into parliament, but 30 years ago he never got into parliament. But he's allowed to stand next to all the candidates in this district. So Lord Buckethead stood next to Tony Blair. I'm not sure Blair. I think he's more of a lefty. He stood next to all the Tory guys. So you have Theresa May, Lord Buckethead. You will have Boris Johnson, Lord Buckethead. You always have a funny picture with the Tory and that Vader guy.
But he's not a lord, isn't he?
He's just a commoner. But I think the old Lord Buckethead kick the bucket, or I don't know. He doesn't do it anymore, and there's a new Lord Buckethead. So the British system is a bit of its own.
But I see it very preferable to have a yes or no vote on a special person. If somebody really loses his mind, then he will be off and out. And at ours, they will still be in. They have glue on their seats. They will never leave.
Yeah, our politicians tend to stay really long. After the war, the Americans said the president is only allowed to have 2 terms. But the German president is like the queen. It doesn't have really any power. It's just the representative. You have the legislative, you have the executive, you have the judicial, and you have the representative, and he's done nothing.
Yeah. And there was an American general, I think, and he read our Grundgesetz, and he looked over and said, "The president, no stay forever. The president only 2 terms." But he didn't recognize that it
the
was
chancellor is the chancellor. The chancellor is the important person, and we have the chancellor Kohl.
16 years,
15 or 16
or 15, whatever.
Yeah, and now we have Merkel.
Yeah.
15 years,
or
16, and now 14. And if she does out her term, now she has an odd number. I'm not sure. She doesn't divide by 4 because But they are so long. It's just decades and decades. It's like Putin.
There are people going to elections next time, which had always Angela Merkel as chancellor.
Yeah, me. I know the cool guy and the Schröder guy, but never voted for them. I know Merkel.
So back to Brexit. So you think Brexit will happen?
I think Brexit will happen. If it happens on the 31st of January, I'm not quite sure. I think Boris Johnson is a bit of a tough guy. He's doing more than Theresa May because he's just a doer. But he also does mistakes. So the thing with his Brexit, deal? He wanted to push his deal through in 1 week. That's just a stupid idea. Of course, if you push it through, nobody can read it. Then, of course, they
shouldn't read it.
Yeah, it's not that of a good deal. But just people are not allowed to read it and should pass it. No, it won't happen, Boris. It won't happen.
This happens only in Germany.
Yeah, or in America. I think they're gonna stall it a little bit, but they're gonna make it until February, March, something like that. Hopefully they don't drag it out until May. I want to go to Britain in May. I don't want to be stuck in some airport.
And I think there is a good chance for having the Brexit. I see it more than 50-50. I see 2/3 to 1/3 that we will have a Brexit. Not especially in January, but very soon then. And this shows that big companies in the UK see it the same way. There is, the outcome of the Brexit. Will there be duty, tariffs on it? So if the European continent, the European community puts tariffs on whiskey, then the UK will put counter tariffs on probably German cars. And UK is with a big gap, the biggest importing country for German cars. So they have 660,000 units a year, and the US imports 470,000 units a year, and China close to 300,000 units. So if they put tariffs on cars, it will be destroying the EU because Germany is paying for the rest of the countries. So
yes, the thing is, how strong is Germany in the EU and how strong is the rest? Is France gonna say no? We're gonna put tariff them, or Germany gonna say, oh, let's don't do a tariff war?
Depends on the cognac people.
Yeah, it depends on how many cars do the British buy from the French? Are the French on the German side?
You see a lot of Peugeot and Citroën. Yes.
There are some over there. I drove a Citroën when I was in Scotland.
The smaller ones are from France and the bigger ones are from Germany.
So yes, probably the French are on the don't do a tariff war as well. So if you have the power of French and German, maybe they can convince all the others not do a tariff war. But I think
if they
maybe
do
it will be a small tariff war.
Yeah, but because if they're putting tariffs on the whiskey, or if they don't do tariffs on anything, then there will be some more countries saying we want to leave. And they have to be protective for the community, so they can't put no tariffs on it.
Yeah, the thing is, if they let the British just go very easy, then you have the problem that other countries will want to leave as well. But if they are too harsh, then they hurt themselves, or we hurt ourselves as the EU. So it's in the end, I think it's going to be a compromise. It's going to be a few tariffs.
Yeah, and hopefully not too high.
From my point of view, it's going to be 1%, 2%, 3%, something like that.
Yeah. So the agriculture tariffs are typically quite high, 10 to 12%. Depending, is whiskey luxury or agriculture?
And then there are the holes in the law. So what happens if you have a bottle of, let's say, bourbon whiskey that's sold in Germany? Where is the money created and where is it taxed? So you have very cheap corn. Corn is grown everywhere in America, and which makes the whiskey, which is also not that expensive, and then it's bottled, and then it's being shipped to Europe, and then they buy the brand from somewhere in Europe, and that is really expensive. And so they pay the tax on the very cheaply produced bourbon, and they get the price difference. They say, oh, that's all brand, and that belongs to a company in Europe, so they can sell it for high price in Europe and pay low taxes in tolls,
tariffs, and
for the importing it. Is that possible here with the Scotch as well?
And there is a specialty in Europe. There are countries in Europe which you have, say, well, all those tax holes are in. One of those countries is the Netherlands.
So where is it located now?
Netherlands.
Oh, what a coincidence!
Yes. So whenever you have a license fee, it isn't taxed in the Netherlands. So all the pharmaceutical industry has their major corporate offices in the Netherlands. So those licenses they give out aren't taxed in the Netherlands. So if the Glenkinchie license is given out from the Netherlands into the different countries in the European community, you can take out the money via this license to the UK.
So the imported good is really cheap, and then they put on the lot of value with the brand in the Netherlands. So
they pay few duty.
Yes. So the duty, if you say okay, they have a duty of, let's say, 5%, the 5% is on just a small portion of the bottle, on the production of the bottle, but not the value of the bottle.
Yes.
So I think it's not gonna hit the German or European whiskey market that hard. If it hits us too hard, you will not see any videos anymore. If we go bankrupt. No, I don't think we'll go bankrupt. It may have a slight bump, and I think it will be very bumpy at the beginning. Because if you change a system very rapidly, like say inside EU, next day outside EU, then you're gonna have a bit of a bumpy time.
So the EU had those counter tariffs on Harley-Davidson
and bourbon whiskey.
And those counter tariffs happened that the Harley-Davidson people now produce the Harley-Davidson in their subsidiary in Brazil and bring them over from Brazil. So all blended whiskey might be bottled somewhere out the EU because blended whiskey does not have to be bottled in Scotland, but somewhere else. And then they bring it in by bulk and bottle it inside the EU. And single malt whiskey has to be bottled in Scotland for those, have the industry be more important in Scotland.
Where is the value of the brand being added?
Not in the bottling, it's the brand, it's the name.
Is it the box or is it something magical?
It's the name is the license. To
Name
use
is the
the
license.
name. Yeah. So Glenkinchie TM trademark.
Can the UK tax incoming licenses? Incoming brand licenses?
For what?
So if they want to write Glenkinchie on it?
They're coming over the Netherlands and their licenses are free.
Yeah, but like in Netherlands are free, but can you do import taxes on imaginary goods? Or what are
Then you transfer the license into the Netherlands.
You transfer but then someone in the UK who wants to use the brand name has to pay the guy in
It's a copy license.
It's
not a single license.
yeah, but you import the copy
Be sure
license.
the lawyers will have made it completely.
Yeah, I know. it's a shit show. I think we will still enjoy some single malt whiskey. Maybe it will become cheap, more expensive for 1 or 2%. But it really depends more on what the pound is doing.
Yeah. So pound is going up. This was typically true when the chances for Brexit were low. So over the last weeks, we saw 1 cent more. So it's going up so that the financial market says, no, it won't happen. And when the Brexit was very close, then the pound went down very steeply.
Mm-hmm.
So, we see how the pound will go.
Yeah, so all of this is only our opinion,
Yeah.
and opinions are protected in Germany, so we can have our opinion. Probably you're not of the same opinion. Write your opinion down below. I'm really excited about what you think of it. The opinion of the most people I talked in Scotland about that. I didn't talk with everybody about that because it's a bit of a hot topic and over there. And by hot topic, I mean everybody's really annoyed. Everybody's like, I really don't want to talk about Brexit. It's just, you get that feed spoon-fed every single day and you're just sick of it. So if you talk to a Briton about Brexit, there are the hard leave and there are the hard remain. And the big majority is just, I don't want to talk about it. It's so annoying. Yeah, so many people are just annoyed by Brexit or the talk about Brexit.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked enough. So thank you very much for watching. This was a bit of a different video and see you next time.